Hey, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to be talking about Joker 2019, the new trailer, and specifically what its light illuminates, what it highlights from the 2020 U.S. election race right now, okay? So let's dig into it. All right, so basically, just to give full context here, we're going to take the Joker 2019 trailer. I've watched that. I think there's a lot, and we're going to use that as a star, and its light will be received by the 2020 election race. Specifically, the policies, the stances, the candidates. Which ones of those will this will the Joker 2019 trailer illuminate when we look at it carefully? All right, so let's jump right into it. So the first thing is we're looking at this Joker 2019 trailer, and we're seeing a new iteration of Joker that doesn't match anything DC has done previously. So this is a new manifestation of the Joker, a new iteration of the Joker, right? And immediately that reminds me of the Democrat Party, right? So there's this question of what is the Democrat Party really for? What is its actual shape, right? A perfect example of this is the Clintons, right? So you have Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, right? They established an incredibly powerful foundation for Democrat politics to continue forward on in the 90s. But the things they stood for in the 90s, like distinct things that they stood for in the 90s, things they opposed in the 90s, are absolutely repugnant to the current Democrat Party. There's virtually no one in the Democrat Party that, if you took their policies from the 90s and said, hey, this is Bill Clinton, this is Hillary Clinton, they stand for this, they stand against this, there'd be about a 10 or 20% bracket that modern day Democrats would absolutely be horrified. And frankly, you know, both Bill and Hillary have done a lot to kind of pave over those potholes, right? You know, and this comes from this idea that what is the true form? What is the true nature of the Democrat Party, right? And we're seeing that right now. Now, I will say one other thing, though, that I think really kind of came out just looking at the Joker trailer, is if you look at today's 15 candidate Democrat U.S. presidential primary pool of candidates, they are incredibly cohesive, right? They disagree on this, they disagree on that, but they're really not, almost none of them are really that far off the mark from the Democrat playbook. They absolutely all, at some level, support gun control. They, there's incredibly little variation. They're almost all for healthcare, free healthcare, almost all for free college. There's just like 3 or 4 or 5 different stripes where there's very little variation in the current poll. So I think that's kind of interesting, right? So let's talk a little bit about the trailer itself. So in the trailer, we see something very interesting. We look at the trailer and we see this, we see specifically this Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker, right? And the Joker that we're dealing with in this trailer is really a very urban Joker, and then also very much an artistic Joker and a sympathetic Joker, right? And it's also very clear too that the Joker you're looking at in this film barely exists in the superhero genre. Like you don't see any tights, you don't really see any superheroes whatsoever in this Joker film, right? So you know what? I think the best way to describe this is art house Joker, right? Art house Joker. It's the best way to describe it. And in many ways, I think this is a comic book movie made for people who probably don't like comic books. Pretty sure of that. Now, the thing that's interesting is the Star Wars trilogies, actually the Star Wars series of films, is doing the same thing in the Star Wars stories vein. They're saying, hey, not every story has to be this huge blockbuster. We can tell smaller stories. So I think that's what they're trying to do here, right? So I don't know where I fall there are things in this movie that I'm very excited about. I think this movie has the possibility to be very, very good. So I am a fan of some of Joaquin Phoenix's work, right? But I can only say some. So the work that he's an incredible actor. There's no question about that. He was in Gladiator, and he did a fantastic job in Gladiator. I think that Gladiator is without a doubt his finest role, and it proved he's an award-winning class actor. Okay. He also did a tremendous job in Her. That was a very deep movie. It was a very sad movie. And it really made me think a lot. You can find my review for Her right here on this channel. But he's a really, really interesting actor. Now, he is very indie, and I'm talking indie. Like, he's very indie. And a lot of his indie, and quite a few, I would even say most of his indie films, I look at him and say, that's too indie for me, right? Some of them have topics that I have absolutely no desire to explore, and I haven't, right? So I think Joaquin Phoenix is a really interesting guy. I'm really curious. He is the roll of the dice on this film. But who is not a roll of the dice in this film is Zazie Beetz. So I think Zazie Beetz is a really incredible actor. She is on the rise right now, and I think she's building a career. And I liked her in some of the things I saw. But if you haven't seen her in High Flying Bird, which is on Netflix, you can watch it for nothing, right? If you have Netflix, which I think like the possum who lives under the porch at my house has Netflix, right? All right, so if you can watch High Flying Bird. High Flying Bird is incredible, and I really think Zazie Beetz, that showed what she can do, and I think you could build huge blockbuster films on Zazie Beetz. I believe she has an absolutely massive career coming out because she has all the star qualities that you get from a traditional Hollywood actress, but she's got a New York flair, a New York attitude, and a New York style. And I think that's amazing and awesome. You know, I'm an East Coast guy. So, you know, I really like the idea of a powerful, you know, really steamrolling rock star, movie star coming up. And I think that's exactly what Zazie Beetz is. So I think Joaquin Phoenix can be kind of an untethered kite just flying around. And I think Zazie Beetz can be really a multiplier for the kind of energy and coolness that Joaquin Phoenix can produce. And I think Zazie Beetz in this movie is going to be a multiplier for the good things you'll get out of Joaquin Phoenix. She's the thing I'm most excited about in the movie. If you're not getting it, you're like, Zazie Beetz, then you haven't seen High Flying Bird. Her work in that really points to like a Tom Hanks level career in front of her. She's incredible. So you also got Robert De Niro in there, which is very interesting, and Mark Maron. If you haven't listened to his podcast, he's fantastic. All right. So this is a really, really, really unique take on the Joker. Right. So when we take this star of the Joker 2019 and we shine its light down upon the planet of 2015 election politics, what do we get? What is illuminated? What is highlighted? Well, the first thing is policy, right? So clearly the Joker is suffering from mental health disorders, one or more, right? And it looks like he's gotten these disorders from hardships in his life. So one moment. Excuse me. Okay, so basically, you're looking at the Joker, and it's clear that the people in his life have shown him disrespect. They've shown him both mental and physical abuse, right? Actually, it looks like he's gotten verbal abuse from people in his lives, and he's gotten physical abuse from bad people in the community, from bad people in his surroundings, right? So this is really fascinating because, you know, is this issue, this issue of the people, mental health disorders, being addressed by the Democrats currently? Well, absolutely yes. Every single Democrat is calling for, I think everybody in the pool is calling for free health care, and I don't think any of them would exclude mental health care from that. You know, their health care is both physical and mental, right? So the Democrats absolutely want to address this, right? So that is covered, right? And it's covered by every single candidate. What's really interesting, though, is when we look at the Joker, especially this art house Joker, Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, we see someone who has mental disorders and probably has arrived at the point of mental disorders they've been exacerbated and they've been brought to the surface by verbal abuse by people he knows and by physical abuse by people in his surroundings, right? Now, for that, we as America, we owe that at that point where in the film where we've seen him verbally abused, we've seen him physically abused, we as a culture, right, we have to give him help, right? And if there is no help available for that person, then it's quite arguable, as the Democrats argue, that's on us, right? Justice should be served against us. Social justice needs to be done, for that early Joker, right? And the reason why is that early Joker's been done wrong. And the community overall has failed to aid him, right? Now that is fully addressed within the Democrats' politics. But then there's a much bigger question that comes from the Joker. So in this movie, you could definitely see strains of it coming in this film, and it absolutely exists within all the comic books and within all the movies. When you deal with Joker, right, you got reasons to sympathize with him, but there's a turning point, right? Joker compounds his hard knock life by making life choices which are completely unjustified, and which the magnitude of the actions and the choices make those wholly his responsibility and no longer the and to a point where justice is no longer pointing its finger back at the community saying, why didn't you do more for Joker? But justice can point directly at Joker and say, you took lives, right? You committed crimes that have absolutely no justification. And now the community is coming, the people, right, represented by the government, the law is coming to punish you for your actions, right? You had a hard situation. There was a point where we needed to do something, but you compounded this situation to the point where now the justice lies on you, right? That is really, really interesting. So every single Democrat in the field has a plan for helping people who have had, verbal and physical abuse, right? And then have had mental health disorders that have bubbled to the surface, right? But who has a plan to deal with people who have chosen to commit crimes on their own, right? Like, even understanding their circumstances, they took choices that have absolutely no justification, not even the hardships they struggled, right? Like murder, no one can do that. And no society can ever allow that, right? And so that is very interesting. Well, that does highlight one candidate out of the entire pool has a framework to deal with people from that perspective, well, and with history and with experience. Well, that's Kamala Harris, right? She's a DA, and she has done it, right? Everybody else, I think this would be kind of talk from them, but like she has shown, I will bring justice to criminals, bet, right? Like, and she's the only one in the pool who really has any answer for that second part, right? And I think this is a huge question for the Democrats, right? The Democrats have this really open heart, as a party, they are looking to embrace people who are struggling with sources of woe, right? But what do they have for Americans who are like, okay, we get that there's a source of woe, but this person is a murderer now, right? Like, what do we do to deal with that, right? And like, that sympathy needs to melt away when this person has made choices which have absolutely no justification, including their sources of woe. The response to that is not legitimate to murder people, right? And so Joker brings up both of those issues, and it really brings Kamala Harris out of the pack, right? And right now, that's what we're doing. Who boils up out of the pack, right? Because, we got 15 candidates and they are scrapping, right? And the one thing that is most interesting about Kamala Harris is that justice focus, that not just social justice, but actual law justice, right? Like, what do you do when you got somebody who really needs the law to be brought down on them? And Joker absolutely fits into that, right? Like, his response to his hardships was completely unjustified. The sources of woe don't justify his actions, right? So, and at that time, you need somebody who's going to be able to bring the law. And right now, Kamala Harris, in my opinion, is the only one who can clearly has proven that she's going to be able to do that. And for Democrat voters, that ain't something they're looking for. I really don't think there's a lot of Democrats who are like, I really want a tough on crime person. Like, it just ain't. It's not something you're going to hear in the Democrat. But to win this election, you're going to need to get your Dems on board, right? And you're going to need to bring over a ton of Trump voters. And Kamala Harris has a distinct possibility of doing just that, right? So I think those are the stances, those are the policies, those are the candidates, Kamala Harris specifically, mental health disorder, social justice, criminal justice. Those are the things that the Joker 2019 trailer is talking about, right? And when we shine that light of the Joker 2019 trailer onto the 2015 U.S. presidential election race, that's what we see. Very, very interesting. I'm excited about the movie, and of course, I'm very excited about our election that's shaping up, and seeing how this thing is going to turn out, and what the next event is. You know, what's going to happen next? Who's going to enter? Who's going to exit? All those kind of things. Thank you very much. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.